Hello everyone, myself Haneen, currently studying second year MSC Microbiology, University of Tamilnadu. Today, here I am talking about the marine microbial community, mainly the phytoplankton. So, we know that phytoplankton, which is also known as the microalgae, are similar to terrestrial plants in that they contain chlorophyll and require sunlight in order to live and grow. So, most phytoplankton are buoyant and float in the upper part of the ocean where sunlight penetrates the water. So, phytoplankton also require inorganic nutrients such as nitrates, phosphates and sulfur, which they convert into proteins, fats and carbohydrates. Climate and the carbon cycle. So, what is the relationship between the climate, carbon cycle and the phytoplankton? So, in this picture we can clearly see that the phytoplankton which will consume the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and some of this carbon is carried to the deep ocean when phytoplankton die. So, some is transferred to different layers of the ocean as phytoplankton are eaten by other creatures such as zooplankton, and which will themselves reproduce, generate waste and die. So, worldwide this biological carbon pump transfers about 10 gigatons of carbon from the atmosphere to the deep ocean each year. So, even small changes in the growth of the phytoplankton may affect the atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration, which will result in the global warming, temperature change, temperature fluctuations, etc. So, more growth and depletion of the phytoplankton will affect severely to the environment and climate, which will affect the animals and the creatures which is living in this environment. Food web. Food webs describe who eats whom in an ecological community. So, it is made up of interconnected food chains. So, food webs help us to understand how changes ecosystem when some of the predators or consumers is extinguished or removed from the food chain. So, phytoplankton are the basis of the aquatic food webs. So, they are eaten by primary consumers like a zooplankton, small fish, etc. Primary consumers are in turn eaten by fish, small sharks, corals and baleen whales, etc. So, the next one is role of phytoplankton on various compartments of the marine environment. So, the photosynthetically fixed, we can see in the figure, the photosynthetically fixed carbon is rapidly recycled and reused in the surface ocean, while a certain fraction of this biomass is exported as sinking particles to the deep ocean, where it is subjected to ongoing transformation processes such as the remineralization, etc. So, phytoplankton contribute to not only a basic pelagic marine food web but also the microbial loop. So, it will also contribute to the microbial loop. So, phytoplankton are the base of the marine food web, and because they do not rely on other organisms for food, they make up the first trophic level. So, approximately 90% of total carbon is lost between trophic levels due to respiration and dissolved organic matter. This makes the remineralization process and nutrient cycling performed by phytoplankton and bacteria important in maintaining the efficiency of the CO2, carbon dioxide. So, compartment influenced by the phytoplankton include the atmospheric gas composition, inorganic nutrients and trace element fluxes, as well as a transfer and recycling of organic matter via biological processes. So, the next one is environmental factors that affect the phytoplankton productivity. So, this is the figure. It is shown in the right side of the presentation. It is a figure which is representing the factors that will affect the phytoplankton productivity. So, all of these factors are expected to undergo significant changes in the future ocean due to the global change. So, phytoplankton, we know that these are the key mediators of the biological pump. Temperature, irradiance, nutrient concentration along with the CO2 are the chief environmental factors that will influence the physiology of the phytoplankton. So, elemental composition of phytoplankton is of importance to secondary producers such as the copepods, fish, shrimp, etc. because it determines the nutritional quality and it will influence the energy flow through the marine food chains. Understanding the response of phytoplankton to changing environmental conditions is a prerequisite to predict future atmospheric concentrations of CO2. So, climate change may greatly restructure the phytoplankton communities, leading to cascading consequences for marine food webs, thereby altering the amount of carbon transported to the ocean interior, which will affect the environment, climate, even it will affect us, the food chain, etc. Coming to the phytoplankton classification, mainly it is classified into three based on the taxonomic group, size group and functional group. We can go one by one. So coming to the classification, the first one is diatoms, which include the taxonomic classifications of the phytoplankton. So diatoms are photosynthesizing algae. They have a siliceous skeleton and are found in almost every aquatic environment, including fresh and marine waters, soils. In fact, almost anywhere moist it can be seen. And it is unicellular, can form colonies, and it is a major group of marine microalgae, and it forms diatomaceous earth, and it will cover the ornate shell. We can see in the figure. Can be seen in the figure. There is a shell type structure is seen in the outside of the organism. Dinoflagellate. It is a one-celled aquatic organism bearing two dissimilar flagella. We can see in the figure, and having characteristics of both plants and animals. Most are marine, though some live in freshwater habitats also. It will be a autotrophic or mixotrophic, and it will form blooms mainly the red tide, and some species exhibit bioluminescence. So, dinoflagellates will exhibit bioluminescence. So the second one is coccolithophores. It is coming under the taxonomic group classification. So coccolithophores, which are unicellular autotrophic organisms belonging to the marine phytoplankton, and during certain phase of their life cycle of this coccolithophores, they have the ability to produce calcium carbonate plates called the coccoliths that cover the cell in a structure called the coccosphere. It can be seen in the figure that it is covered by a is a ball shaped, it is covered by a coccosphere, and it is called the coccosphere. It is also called as a calcifying phytoplankton, and it will prefer low to moderate nutrient and will form bloom. So the third one is a cyanobacteria. We know that cyanobacteria is a nitrogen fixing organism. It is also called as the blue-green algae. It will also form bloom, and it will exist as single or it will form colonies. So the next classification is based on the size group. So the first one is phytophytoplankton, which will contribute 90% of the total carbon production in oligotrophic ecosystem, and it will have important role in microbial loop, and it will have some of the structural advantages such as the minimum metabolic maintenance, low weight, etc., and it will contribute 10% of the global aquatic net primary production removal through the grazing, parasitism, viral lice, etc., and it uses several nitrogen. It will use several nitrogen sources. So based on size group, the second one is nanophytoplankton. So nanophytoplankton make an important contribution to primary production, and it will assimilate nutrients in excess of their requirements. It will also constitute 45% of biomass in oligotrophic waters, and it will prevail in water column irrespective of stratification, etc., and it will have effective diffusion of nutrients and optimal growth in water temperatures up to 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, etc. So coming to the functional group of phytoplankton, it is classified mainly into four. It is nitrogen fixers, calcifiers, silicifiers, and DMS. So nitrogen fixers which include trichodesmium, and calcifiers which include coccolithophores, and silicifiers include the diatoms, and DMS which include the phyocystis. So the nitrogen fixers, which is all phytoplankton require nitrogen for the growth. It takes nitrogen in the form of nitrate or ammonia. So upper layer of the sea, these forms are often present at growth limiting concentrations. So a subset of phytoplankton known as the diazotrophs or nitrogen fixers can overcome this limitation because they are able to utilize nitrogen gas dissolved in seawater. They belong to the class of cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, and the most notable of these in open ocean waters is the bloom-forming trichodesmium, which is the main examples of the nitrogen fixers. So, when nitrogen fixation is high, the oceanic primary production may change from nitrogen limiter to phosphorus limiter, thus affecting the phosphorus cycle as well. So, silicifiers, which is commonly known as diatoms, have silica frustules that surround and protect the cells. So, diatoms are typically large-celled, and this combined with the presence of the silica frustules, which makes them slightly negatively buoyant, and therefore tend to sink rapidly out of the surface layer of the ocean. So, the silicifiers contribute to the transport of carbon, nitrogen, and silica to deep waters. So, though diatoms are the major silicifiers in the ocean, some phytoplankton belonging to the chrysophytes, silicoflagellates, and xanthophytes are also known to be silicifiers. And also, why do we care about the carbon export production? So, we know that the carbon cycle and phytoplankton have some interconnection. They are interrelated, right? The total amount of carbon in the ocean is about 50 times greater than the amount in the atmosphere. So, and it is exchanged with the atmosphere on a time scale of several hundred years. So, at least 50% of the oxygen we breathe comes from the photosynthesis of marine plants, right? So, currently 48% of the carbon emitted to the atmosphere by fossil fuel burning is sequestered into the ocean. But the future fate of this important carbon sink is largely uncertain because of the potential climate change impacts on ocean circulation, biogeochemical cycling, and ecosystem dynamics. Marine phytoplankton account for about 45% of the global net primary production. In addition, they perform other important biogeochemical functions including nitrogen fixation, calcium carbonate precipitation, and the production of climatically active gases such as the dimethyl sulfide. So, functional traits that quantify response of growth rate, photosynthesis, and nutrient uptake to temperature, irradiance, and nutrient availability provide a useful basis for understanding the phytoplankton ecology. A variety of complementary approaches are used to measure growth and net primary production. These include measuring production of O2 and organic matter in bottle experiments and measuring dial and seasonal changes of O2 in open waters. Information obtained from satellite remote sensing of ocean color is used to calculate, although the growth of individual phytoplankton cells is often limited by temperature and the availability of nutrients and light. Biotic interactions including predation and disease often control the growth of phytoplankton populations and the species composition of phytoplankton communities. So, anthropogenic impacts on the ocean including nutrient loading to coastal waters, climatic forcing associated with the global warming, and ocean uptake of anthropogenic CO2 are influencing the chemistry and physics of the upper ocean with multiple potential impacts on the phytoplankton. So these are my references. Thank you.